Mr. General Evaluator, and great to see everyone here and our guests as well, and especially Vivien. So Vivien, the project that you gave this evening was the project on experience with mentoring. And just to emphasize, one of the main goals of this particular project was to not really just report on what mentoring is, but to really give an idea what it means to you and an experience that you've had with being on the other side, being a mentee. And I think you did this with assiduity as you put this together, no question. And I think our other presenters did this evening did a great job. So I'm going to talk about just a few things that I felt were quite strong, and you certainly have those aspects, and that I think will serve you well throughout your presentations that you've been giving, and continue to take them up a notch. First of all, you have a great sense of humor. That's really clear, and that's a great approach to bonding or virtually to any audience and breaking the ice. And you have great facial expressions. I love the way that you really do. And you use gestures as well, but we've got to consider that facial expressions are part of body language. And so the distance that you have from the camera, I think, is appropriate because it allows us to see your facial expression, but also enough to see your upper body gestures when you use them. So I think that's an appropriate distance. You also use some really nice, call them hooks, if you will, to bring us in. I talked a little bit about, getting us on the bus, in which your speech is kind of our travel on that bus. So you start out with really talking about be real, and you actually engaged us in really repeating that. So it kind of becomes part of our thought and reinforces that. So that was done well too. One thing they did too is you talked about the mentoring process was the difference between coaching and mentoring. And I notice in some of the presentations I've heard that's often overlooked, but you brought up that coaching is kind of the management, the day-to-day things, the pieces, bits and pieces, where mentoring is kind of looking at the big picture. And you started out telling us a little bit about way back when you learned to play the piano, and you had a family member, I think you said it was your mom, or teaching you to play. But one thing I would have liked to see a little bit more in the speech, and of course, length is always kind of a constraint, is talking more about your protege experience. And maybe that might have been expanding a little bit on, from that learning how to play the piano, what are some things that you learned about being in the protege role that can help you maybe connect more and work more with your mentor, and maybe even deciding what mentor or mentors as you move through life would be best for you to work with. Again, I know in a 5 to 7 minute speech, that's a challenge. So maybe a little bit more time or expanding on it. But then you'd have to kind of trade off some of the things that you mentioned earlier. But overall, it's a very good speech, great connection, eye contact, all parts about it. And I notice everyone enjoyed it as well. And I'm sure we'll enjoy your next ones at least as much. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator. General Evaluator, I should say.
I'll go by Mr. General Evaluator, but yeah.